utility business, you know, guys climbing up wooden poles to string electrical wire, guys digging holes in roads to go after the pipes. They're now using augmented reality on tablets to understand where those pipes are, what gas line they might blow a hole in if they take their backhoe and start digging here. Field salespeople all over the world, TaylorMade Golf Clubs has issued an iPad to every one of their sales guys. These guys are not $150,000 a year knowledge workers. Their job is to go to golf clubs, to the pro shops at golf courses and try to sell more golf clubs. But now they're using computers, they're using iPads, they're using Android tablets to do that. Obviously, there's unbelievable stuff going on in medicine. You've all heard about that and seen that. But again, it's not just the doctors. It's the technicians. It's the entire support infrastructure in the medical industry is turning to these technology-based devices. And this is going to have a huge impact on the number of customers that we can sell to. The post-PC era is going to generate an incremental billion knowledge workers in the next 5 years for sure. Double the market size for all of us. We don't have to do anything. It's just going to happen. What you do have to do is you have to think about cool applications that could be used in places where people have not traditionally used technology. For example, there's a really cool archaeological site in England near Hadrian's Wall, and it's a bunch of ruins. And the hard part with ruins, of course, is, well, they're ruined. So what you're interested in is, well, what did the thing look like when Hadrian was walking around, when the Romans were walking around, right? And instead, I'm sure many of you have been in this situation, what you see is a 1 foot high bunch of bricks, and you're like trying to imagine what it looks like. So some guy said, cool, I can deal with that. He built an iPad app, it talks to the GPS, it figures out where you are and what direction you're looking, and it imposes augmented reality style a picture of what this site looked like in Roman times on your iPad. Wicked cool. That's the kind of thing that we all need to be thinking about. How can these technologies solve problems that historically haven't been solvable or haven't been solvable with technology? And if we can do that, then we're going to create huge opportunity for all of us to make a lot of money. So where do we go from here? What are the implications of all this? Ballmer said once, the goal can't be to throw out all the world's software and start again. He was talking about the cloud. Frankly, Microsoft has no interest in throwing out all the world's software and starting again because they're in charge, right? But the reality for people like us is that would be just a dandy idea because all the existing technology is mostly crap from our point of view. It doesn't have good APIs. We can't integrate very easily with it. You can't talk to it from outside the firewall. It's on-prem. It runs on hardware that's hard to maintain, that's not scalable, that's not elastic. All the things that we sort of expect from technology in the modern age, we don't get from all that legacy stuff that's in corporate data centers. So our view is, yeah, let's throw it all out and start again. Let's start again with Workday. Let's start again with Zendesk. Let's start again with Zuora. Let's start again with cloud-based technologies that were designed from the ground up with a platform, with integration in mind, with extensibility and elasticity in mind. And let's go build a bunch of really cool applications that will help those next billion knowledge workers accomplish amazing things. And let's make a ton of money in the process. So that's my pitch. The two big changes, virtualization of the operating system and a billion new knowledge workers. Any questions? Dead silence up front. Do I know if anyone is working on any sort of meta OS concept? Yeah, lots and lots of people are. So there's a company called Okta that's doing some really cool single sign-on kind of stuff that's essentially the authentication management layer for this new meta operating system. And there are a bunch of other guys doing similar stuff using SAML. So there's Ping, there's Simplify. There are a bunch of guys in that space. There are a bunch of guys who are trying to build the storage layer for this new virtualized operating system, which obviously is one of the things we're trying to do. The piece that we think is really important that nobody's going after yet is the permissions piece. So every one of these SaaS applications has got its own permissions model, and that's going to have to get solved. There's going to have to be one permissions model. Like on a Unix box, you know, read, write, execute, that applies to every application. In this new Meta OS, we're going to need some concept like that that gets inherited by all these applications. Nobody's working on that yet that I know of. It's not like somebody said to themselves, there's going to be a Meta OS, let's go build it. What's happening is people are going after the individual problems, and then eventually that will coalesce in some way.
Traditionally, authentication mechanisms in enterprises like SiteMinder were used to kind of have a cross-application, cross-platform. Do you see anybody coming out like that with a platform for cloud-to-cloud or SaaS-to-SaaS?
Can you guys hear the questions, or should I repeat them? Repeat them. All right. I think, is it SiteMinder?
Yeah, traditionally in enterprises, some people we've been talking about use things like SiteMinder.
Right.
Cross-application authentication, but now with SaaS-to-SaaS and cloud-to-cloud, do you see people developing platforms?
Yeah, the question is, in traditional enterprises, tools like SiteMinder were used to extend a permissions model across multiple applications. Have I seen anything like that in the new world? And the answer is no, not yet. There are a lot of people talking about it. It turns out to be really hard. Like, we did this massive integration with Jive to use Box as the content store for groups in Jive. For those of you who don't know, Jive is an enterprise SBS, a social business software tool like Facebook in the enterprise. And man, it was a pain in the butt, because they had their permissions model and we had our permissions model, and mapping them together just for those two applications took us hours and hours and hours of conversation. Like, what does it mean if this dude is in this group in Jive? Do we have to create a new group in Box because the group concept has to go across? It was a huge hairball. So no, I don't know of anybody doing that yet, but it's going to have to get done. I was just with like 200 CIOs yesterday, and all they could talk about was how much of a pain in the butt the cloud is. Like, they have to create users by hand for each different application. They can't use Active Directory groups to extend permissions to everybody. So it's going to get fixed. Nobody's going after it yet that we know of. Up front here.
How do you view security in this new Meta OS?
How do I view security in this new Meta OS? Enterprises are going to demand that the security be just as good as what they had before. That means a lot of things. I could spend an hour talking about security, but I'll tell you one thing. There are two things people don't get about security in the new world. The first is what we already talked about, which is we're all using Dropbox. We're all using Evernote. We're all using these consumer tools that have no security model. And yet our IT guys are trying to tell us that we can't use Salesforce.com because it's not secure. Bullshit. That's the first thing that everybody's sort of got to wrap their mind around. But the second thing is, businesses are not going to put up with any less security in the new world than they had in the old world. They are completely deluded, by the way, about the security they have in their in-house data centers. They believe because it's in their building, it's secure. Frankly, I mean, I spent a lot of time in this world, and forgive me if any of you work in security in corporations, but except for very large companies, any SaaS vendor worth their salt has much better security than any of these businesses do, because that's our life. If I lose your data, that is literally a company-ending mistake. So we spend a tremendous amount of time on security, and the most dangerous piece of the security model is not the technology. The technology is easy. It's the frickin' wetware. It's us. It's social engineering. That's how you hack people these days. There's no point in bothering to hack the technology. The people are a much easier target. And hardening the people against attack is really the thing that businesses need to be doing.
Speaking of, are you guys SOC 2 compliant?
I said I wasn't going to talk about Box. The question is, are we SOC 2 compliant? And I've got a colleague based here, Drew. Where are you, Drew? He's here somewhere. He's over there. Drew will answer all of your hard, annoying technical questions about Box afterwards.
Windows Azure. What's your opinion of that?
Azure? What's my opinion of Azure? So obviously, we live in a world where we don't really pay attention to infrastructure as a service in the same way that many of you do. My sense is that Amazon is way ahead. S3 and EC2 are unbelievably good. That Azure and Rackspace are sort of close behind, but still way behind. Azure obviously running on Microsoft proprietary stuff. Rackspace is using OpenStack, which is a very cool open source cloud architecture that implements the S3 API. But I think they're both significantly behind at this point. And I don't know what's going to happen with Azure. I think Microsoft cannot afford for it to lose. But, I mean, quick show of hands. How many of us are using S3 or EC2? So a good collection. How many of us are using Azure? Well, actually, you know, maybe a quarter as many. So not zero. Here's the dirty little secret about Box, because we used to rag on Microsoft a lot. We actually think Windows 8 is pretty cool. And Windows 8 RT, I think, is going to be the dark horse in the mobile world. I think RT is going to be a winner in the enterprise. I think you're going to see it rolled out in pretty high volume. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity because everybody has sort of dissed Microsoft, has dissed Windows Phone. And I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that can be done on RT. And that's something I would look at if I was you guys. The question is, did they not issue me a phone at Box because telephony is solved or because Box was so young that we didn't care about telephony in any serious way? I think the answer is neither. I think bring your own device is the future. I spent 90 minutes with Rob Carter, who's the global CIO of FedEx down in Memphis a couple weeks ago. And you know, Rob is all about bring your own device. I mean, he has got a plan. He's got 4 different ways it's going to happen. And if FedEx is doing it with, I don't know how many 100,000 employees, I mean, it's clearly the future. How that's all going to work with enterprise telephony, I don't know, because, you know, you've got all this, like, extension-based dialing and phone forwarding and what is that thing some people still use? Sound mail? Voicemail, yes, voicemail. People who don't use IM seem to use it. I don't really understand. So I don't think it's there yet, but I definitely think it's the future. And there's a lot of really cool stuff happening to bring interesting enterprise-style telephony to mobile devices and BYOD mobile devices. Even Cisco's doing some cool stuff. So I think that's the future. You're just going to get, your telephony system is going to get abstracted the way, what are those guys, those big small business IP telephony guys? Anyway, it's just going to get abstracted from a phone system and a physical device to whatever device you're on. We're already all using IP phones, so the transition to a mobile handset is pretty easy from there. One more question? Anybody in the back? No? Right up front.
The biggest shortfall I see with cloud computing is that the infrastructure isn't always there. Like I live an hour south of here. For 1,200 users, we have 20 megabits. Like how do you, what's the solution?
The connectivity question. Never heard that one before. The question is, you know, I live very near Kansas City, the home of the Google Fiber project, and I can't get decent internet connectivity from my company. It's a big problem, but it's getting solved fairly quickly is the short answer. I just got an iPhone 5. It's got LTE, 4G, much better connectivity, much faster connectivity, makes my mobile device much easier to use. You know, the Google Fiber project, I think, is the first step towards much higher bandwidth to the home eventually, but it'll get into businesses first. There are some really hairy and interesting problems around this, which I don't know if any of you are cloud geeks enough to care about, but for example, we spend a lot of time talking about peering with our customers. So we use Equinix, who is a global data center provider, and in the US, they've got a very good network. And if one of our customers can peer into an Equinix data center, they get very high performance connectivity back to the Box cloud service. So customers who are replacing file servers with Box and thus care a lot about performance, we encourage them to peer with us through Equinix or some other high performance connectivity medium like the Internet 2 backbone. That's another good option if you're a nonprofit or a university. So the short answer is, yeah, I know it stinks in some places. It will get better. Frankly, for most of us, even 20 megabits is better than on-prem for most applications. Although I keep telling myself that I should throttle back our connectivity to the network. We've got 600 people on a 100 megabit fiber line at Box. I think we should throttle it back to like 5 or 10 megabits just to get a flavor for what our customers have to deal with in the real world. So maybe we'll do that someday. Hey guys, really excited to be here. Fabulous first event for Compute Midwest. Look forward to coming back in a couple years when there are a couple thousand people here. That's what happened with the Grow conference in Vancouver. It went from, literally like 50 people to over 1,000 people in 3 years. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see that happening here, and I really look forward to coming back and supporting you guys, being with you guys, and getting to know you all a little bit better next year and the year after. I have got a book. My wife has made it perfectly clear that if I'm not home in San Francisco in time for dinner, it's a marriage-threatening issue. So if you want to talk about Box, Drew will be here. Enjoy your day. Have fun. Thank you very much.